Hello, hello.
Laura It's you, Katie White. Katie, can you tell people who you are?
I am Katie White. I'm a holistic energy worker, light worker.
Sure.
I don't know. We're in the remaking phase of who I am, but it's fine. Aren't we all
Aren't we all?
unfolding?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to be here and just we were playing with our we were playing with the name of what to call this, and it was jokingly thrown out intuitive foreplay, and I was like, I kind of actually like that.
Yeah, we just wanted to like be playful about it because we really just wanted to like do so. We did a podcast series, and we'll drop that link in the description so you guys can check it out. Where we were like all serious and organized and intentional, and we're like, we just want to just like do this and have fun and play and not like think about this and just let things drop in and channel because that's when we do our best. So, that's what we're doing, and we're just inviting you guys to play with us. And really, this is an opportunity to just, kind of prime your intuition. That's the whole idea behind this intuitive foreplay concept, right? Is just like prime your intuition, like get the juices flowing, whether that's intuitively in like your mind's eye and your third eye, whether that's in the body and sensation that, like, as we're talking, you're like, ooh, like either something rubs you the wrong way or something rubs you the right way. And you're like,
Mhm.
ooh. And it's just like this opportunity to just be in the presence of intuitive conversation and allowing whatever that sparks within you to kind of activate. Ooh, is there something that I'm being invited into? Is there something I'm meant to play with or explore more, right? So, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Laura Mazzata. I've been a holistic therapist for 20 years. I'm an Akashic Records channel, I'm a consciousness mentor, and always unfolding, as Katie said. So,
Mhm.
we're gonna pull some cards and we're gonna chat and see if our brains are working this morning. So, we're one of the concepts that I've been playing with that I told Katie I wanted to talk about too was this concept of like, setting intention. And it's like, okay, we can set intention and make choice, and then we know that energy follows intention, and then we know that whatever we set the intention for is going to come to pass, whether it's in the exact form that we're visualizing in our heads or not, right? So, and then there's also this concept of like going with the flow, right? Going with the flow and surrendering. And so it's like, which one do you do? And the way that I've kind of like come around to this is because there's also the things I think that have gone through my mind of, well, there's the things that I should be intentional about, but we don't want to should on ourselves, right? There's the things I feel like I should be intentional about. So it's like kind of like what you and I were talking about yesterday, or the day before, Katie, around self love, which is like, you know, I can be intentional, but that intention does not come from my mind and my mind's agenda and my human agenda. That intention comes from like that soul nudge and that soul tug, right? And at that point, I then follow the flow of divine energy to kind of take the steps toward wherever I'm being guided. Because I think that's where I was kind of finding myself, which it was like, okay, well, I'm going with the flow, but then we're also meant to set intention. It's like, well, your thoughts are powerful, your intentions are powerful, so be really intentional. And so yeah, I feel like for me, it's taking responsibility for being in communion with spirit. And as long as I take that responsibility for being in communion with spirit, and I can really feel that frequency of being in divine presence, on a regular basis, not necessarily when I'm setting an intention. I know that my intention is coming from that space. It's kind of like, where is the intention coming from? And if it's coming from that space, then it's always going to serve everything in our lives, right?
I'm glad that you're bringing this up because it's exactly what I was talking with clients on Saturday, what you and I were talking about on Sunday. Like it's just continued. When we talk about this unfolding, right? Like there's
Hmm.
this snowball for me, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
all these like little snowflakes, all unique and different, are building and building and building to create this massive snowball right now. And it's rolling down the hill and I can feel it and it's going so fucking fast. And it's so spot on to what you're saying because we're craving this harmonization, right? And it's like harmonization within ourselves. How do we balance like the masculine and feminine? How do we balance this deciding and choosing our intention versus going with the flow? And how you just tee that up with like tune into that frequency and allow that to be enough. Allow that to be
Hmm.
the driving force to bring you into intention, to bring you into flow. I feel like that's where we're going. Like that to me
Mhm.
feels like that snowball to me is gathering all of these things, leveling in or not leveling, dropping, nope, elevating
Mhm.
into this higher frequency and running life from that frequency. Like I think we've been so used to running it from the mind and so human like, and that's not where we come from anymore, right? Like
Right.
that's not where we're going. And so how you just said to align, like aligning with that frequency and letting that be that guiding force on, yeah,
Mhm.
playing with the intention, but knowing that your intention will bring you into flow and how your flow will bring you into intention. Like they feed each other.
Mhm. Yes, they do, and it's so funny, and I think one of the reasons this came up too is because I was having a conversation. This has come up a couple times over the past week with people who are, like, definitely viewing things more through the 3D and through the human mind, right? And, like,
Yeah.
from a more practical perspective, and kind of like, well, okay, well, these things can shift within you, but you still have choice, right? Like you're making a
Right.
choice, and why aren't you choosing this, 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 right? Like you're making a choice. And I'm like, yeah, but where does that choice extend from? Right? Like that's the thing. Like for me, I'm like, yes, I am making a choice, but the choice is not to align with convention. The choice is not to satisfy you, to satisfy this, to satisfy my ego. The choice is emanating from my body,
Yeah.
honestly, what my
Yeah.
body says to me. And when I am taking that responsibility for being in alignment, then that body is at a higher frequency. That body is bringing in that flavor of divinity, right? And that consciousness that is informing where I'm
Yeah.
going. And so it's like, yes, I am making choice, but it's not like I'm just picking it out of my head and saying, this is what I want, and there I'm going for it. It's like I'm making choice from a felt space.
Right. And isn't that flow?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. See, that's why I was just like, I keep coming back to that. I'm like, it's just feeding each other, which is what Praveen says here. Like, I guess the intention could be to go with the flow. Like, that's kind of what it is.
Right. I mean, right, it because we need to remember they feed each other, and by doing so, it's going to feed everybody else and everything else because it's going to be infused with that higher vibrational frequency of just being, right?
That's where the trust comes in, man. I know.
Yeah.
It's like knowing that no matter how wild and crazy our choices may seem, right? It's like when I'm at my highest joy, I am magnetic as fuck,
Right.
right? And it's just like, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. Like it creates momentum, right? It creates momentum, not just in me, but in the people around me.
Well, exactly, right? That's felt because that energy is felt. So
Mhm.
if you're again, that's the frequency vibe, right? And
Yeah.
I think this is hear me? I think this is so timely as we like exit this Gemini season and gear up for this Cancer season, more emotion, but then also the Capricorn full moon
Mm.
coming up, right? Like we're like I know. You should see my chart. Oh my god. Okay. We're like awesome. We're like gearing up to get out of the mind,
Mhm.
get into the body, right? Ground into here, but feel into it, right? And
Yes.
evaluate everything that we've done and see what matches that frequency, right? And if
Mhm.
everything, no matter what we've created, evaluating that and saying, does this align to the frequency I wish to hold?
See, I like that, right? Because yeah, we're bringing it in and just saying like it's like it gets to be this kind of playful fun, which is why we named this intuitive foreplay, right? Like
Right,
just it gets to be light. It doesn't have to be this really serious, like intense, like scrutiny and evaluation. It gets to
right,
be a felt evaluation, like a felt
right.
sense of like, does this feel opening and expansive, and not just in this like, all right, yeah, this is good, but in like a, this explodes me, this makes me feel like
Yes.
I want to like scream it from the rooftops. Like you get to, somebody was telling me this, I think it was a couple months ago on a call, and she was like, yeah, it's being okay with experiencing a much higher level of joy than the vast majority of human beings will allow themselves to feel or
Will
choose
allow
or think
them.
they
Yep.
deserve or feel like guilty about or whatever, right? And it's like being able to own that we want that and that we get to have that and that we're primed for that, right, by the divine. And that if it doesn't feel that way, that sometimes your sacred no is the most sacred thing you can say, which is like, dude, this is a great opportunity. This is a great experience, but I am not like feeling like you just expanded me times 10. And that's what
Right.
I'm here for.
Yeah, and I think this comes back to the shoulds that we were starting to talk about, right?
Mhm.
Like feeling like I should do this because blah blah, right? Like that lowers our joy. That lowers that frequency by shooting ourselves, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that feels like another lesson right now is like allow yourself to feel that expansive joy, know that you're worthy of it, right? That self-worth piece
Mhm.
comes in big time, especially when we talk about shoulds. When we're shoulding, our self-worth is low, right? Because we
Yeah.
don't believe that we're, I still I'm like reprogramming here, right? Like I should go do the dishes, I should go clean, I should go do this,
Mhm.
I should work here. And it's those types of things come up when I'm resting, right? And so
Mm.
for me it's like I am worthy of rest, or they come up when I'm having a lot of fun and we talk about like that joy and that playfulness. Like, oh shit, can I take a day off from working to go do this fun thing and to do something that feels so flow and so high frequency, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, well, I should work. Well, no, isn't what we're here to do to experience and play and feel joy and be
Yeah.
that most expansive expression of joy?
Absolutely. And I think that it's and yes, we're going to be pulling a card for Dean in just a second. Um yeah, and I think this is speaking to what Carmen's saying here is like I'm trying to get to the point of trust and knowing is like I think a lot of people think joy feels out of control or
Yeah.
chaotic or like I don't know, like, can I hold that or
Can I hold
and
it?
like you said, yeah, there's a deserving piece behind that too, but um I think that it's a choice to just experiment.
Yeah.
Right? To just experiment and feel into it and allow yourself to and this is the scary part is like when we don't follow the shoulds, what falls apart in my life, right? What falls apart in my life, what falls away? And I think that that's a process, right? That's a process that you get to hold yourself in or have somebody else hold you in as well, to be able to see that it's all for you and that you're going you also get to it's an opportunity and an invitation to deepen your faith. To deepen your faith in
Mm,
the people who may walk away or deepen your faith in the situations at hand that you feel like, "Oh, I should do this or else blah 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 is going to happen." Well, how do you know that, right? Like that's a story, that's a narrative
yeah.
and that we get to deepen our faith in that everybody's consciousness is always heightening at all times, that anybody can get to any insights at any moment in time. People can instantaneously awaken, people can instantaneously make changes in their lives, right? And so it's continuing to believe in the miracle mindset, really.
Right. Yeah.
Which is hard. It's hard as human beings, right? I mean, it really is, and it's a continually coming back, which is why we do things like this, and why we connect with soul family, and why we have conversations, and we even not have conversations, but just connect and be in each other's presence,
Yeah.
and allow some of these things to come forward, so that we can reflect the divinity of each other. We can reflect the possibilities that exist within each other that we can sometimes forget or just get lost in the human sauce and
Yeah.
move beyond. Okay, let's pull a damn card. I'm pulling from Divine Masters by Kyle Gray. Does
Mm.
anybody have this deck or know this deck? This is the one that chose us today. Let's see what comes forward, friends. Take a nice deep breath in and send some love to these cards. Okay. Ooh. This is fantastic. We got Hilarion, Divine Emergence. Also funny because I literally just started another series on YouTube called Echoes of Emergence, which is hilarious. So this is just so funny. Be seen, let the world know your gifts, right? Be seen, let the world know your gifts. So let me grab the book and see what Hilarion has to say. Thank goodness this is in alphabetical order. Some of these aren't. Okay. I'm not reading all the history of him because I'm just going to get straight to the message. Okay. Um, But I am going to tell you that this is a guy who spent the majority of his life away from humanity. He really craved personal space, and he was a highly sensitive being who picked up the energies of those he came close to. It is said that those who came to his cave experienced miracles, including barren women becoming pregnant and people overcoming mental and other health challenges. Now he helps light workers embrace their gifts and emerge from the cave of sensitivity. It's time to come out of hiding and be seen. Energetically, you've taken some time to retreat and recharge, which has been beneficial for your mental and emotional well being. But now it's time to emerge. Don't get too comfy or fall into old ways of being because the old you wants to hide or old fears of persecution or judgment make you feel that you need to. You weren't born to suffer in this lifetime, you were born to surmount challenges and embrace and share your gifts. If you've been holding back or hiding a part of yourself in order to fit in or conform, you're being encouraged to break the pattern and be seen in all of your glory. You're a powerful teacher and healer with the ability to break outworn family cycles and help others radiate their brightest light. Your personal journey shows others what is possible for them, but to do this, it has to be shared. Let all your gifts be shared. So, this brings up a couple things for me that came up yesterday. Okay. So, one of the things that came up yesterday, one was that I pulled the Jesus card. I think it was from this deck actually. And it was talking about because I think some people can feel really daunted by leadership or like coming into being a powerful teacher and claiming your gifts. But it was great because it said Jesus didn't want to be just want to be a spiritual teacher. He wanted to be a friend. He wanted to be an ally. He wanted to be a companion. And so I think it's you get to define that however you want to. And I think the other piece, I was talking to a friend yesterday who was just like, "Oh, I'm just like having trouble showing up and I feel like I'm hiding and all of this." And it's a couple things. One, it's not about you. It's not about us, right? Like we're here to just be a vessel for divine energy to flow through us and just express it. And that's what this is saying. Like just let God's voice be heard through you. Just let whatever's coming through. And you don't have to be in this business. You don't have to, create something that's really organized or structured. Just by being you, just by being you and being in divine emergence, allowing yourself to be seen for all that you are. It's really coming into full authenticity and full expression of yourself. So, what comes up for you around this, Katie? Anything?
I mean,
If
so
not, I have
much.
more thoughts. So,
Yeah, I
go.
mean, so much, but also I'm just hearing like, let it settle, right? Like, let it settle into
Mhm.
your heart. Just receive it, right? Receive it in, allow yourself to be moved. Kind
Mhm.
of goes back to the beginning of this conversation, right? Like, allow yourself
Oh,
to,
hmm,
right? Allow yourself to be moved. How do you want to be moved today? How does your body want to be moved today? Like, what is it that, whether that's actual like dance, movement, exercise, whatever, but like, where does your heart want to go? Right? Like, where does your heart and body want to take you today? What do you want to explore? And what do you want to open up to that allows you to be your fullest, authentic version of you? And the other thing that stood out to me was letting go of the old identities. Like,
yeah.
as you reemerge, don't fall trap into the old way of being,
Mhm. Yeah,
right?
and 100%. 100%. And I think that it's also you were saying, follow where you're being guided, what your heart's guiding you to, not placing judgment on that, and not like putting scrutiny on that because this reminds me of another conversation I had yesterday with a client who was like, I just feel like I'm isolating, like I feel
Mhm.
like I've been too isolated. And so one of the things is how would you define isolation? And the other piece, one of the things I said to her was like, and this is a perfect example because he went off to his hermitage for a couple months before he kind of emerged in this way. And some of the greatest spiritual teachers have been in isolation for years,
Mhm.
years. And so it's also not judging where you are. Like, I don't want this card to be like it says, it's time to come out of hiding and be seen. Okay. But that gets to look however it looks for you, right? Like, there's no pressure on that. There's no stressors around that, around what that's supposed to look like. I think that it's really most importantly about you starting to see yourself in your entirety, right? So allowing yourself and allowing the divine to see all of you in your entirety, but not making isolation wrong, not making where you are right now wrong. It doesn't have to be wrong for you to also be invited elsewhere, right? And so it's like, okay, I don't have to be wrong with where I am, but I also get to know at the same time that I'm being pulled in a direction, right? And start to move toward it. So that was one of the things that came up too is like, um, that when this says don't get too comfy or fall into old ways of being because the old you wants to hide. It's just like we were talking about with choice earlier. It's just saying, where is it coming from? Where is the intention coming from? Where is the desire to get comfy and fall into old ways of being coming from? Because there is a desire there in your subconscious mind, even if you don't know it consciously, for whatever is existing in your reality right now.
Yeah, and a big question I keep asking is like, well, why would I wanna share that? Right? Why would I wanna come out? What right? Like, what wisdom why do I wanna share the wisdom that I have? Right? Like, just
Mhm.
because I have the wisdom doesn't mean that it's meant to be outwardly shared and seen to the masses. Maybe and so as you're
Mhm.
talking, it's like, yeah, how can you if maybe you're not ready to fully emerge out, whatever that looks like for you, right? But that isolation, right? Can you emerge yourself? Can you open yourself and be seen by some close, intimate friends, right?
Mhm.
Right? Like it doesn't have to be. I feel like one of my big battles in this
Mhm.
lifetime is like all or nothing mindset, right? We don't
Yeah.
need to be isolated or fully seen. Like there's some in
Mhm.
between in there, right? So
Yeah.
how can you like open yourself into these safer environments that allow you to be seen and then really allowing like for me it's really asking that question like is this the wisdom that needs to come through me for the masses
Mm.
just for me for one particular for like those close intimate relationships that I have right so I think that's almost like the discernment and
It is, and it's also that responsibility we talked about
yeah
earlier with aligning with your soul and aligning with your
yeah
soul's truth and aligning with the divine because I think that you'll just know,
yeah
right? You'll just
yep
know when you're in that space of alignment, and that's one of the things that I said to this client yesterday. It's like, she was talking about just, sharing Christ consciousness with the world. And I'm like, well, first of all, sharing doesn't have to come out of your mouth. Sharing
hmm
emanates from your field. So your
hmm
responsibility is not to figure out how to share or what to share or when to share. Your
right
responsibility is to be in the embodiment of Christ consciousness. Because when you're in the embodiment of Christ consciousness, you're naturally going to emanate that. And if
yep
it decides to come out of your mouth, great, it comes out of your mouth. If it decides to come through this, or that action, great, that's where it moves through you. But
yep
if you're an embodiment with it, and if you understand, not understand with the mind, but with the body, the felt sense of what it feels like to be an embodiment of Christ consciousness or any other kind of frequency we're talking about, it doesn't have to be that one. That's just the context that we were talking about it in is like, you know, as long as you're there, you're good. As
hmm
long as you're there, you're good. And you're not a passive receiver of divine energy because that's what can happen is like, well, okay, I'm embodied, so now I'm just going to lay here and I'm just going to emanate, right? It's also like, yeah, but you're also it's a consistent relation. It is a relationship. And it's a
yeah
consistent relationship that you're both invested in. And so as that continues to unfold, you allow yourself to be moved.
right
Mhm. Beautiful. All right, so this is good. I don't wanna make this too long because I want people to be able to watch the replay and capture it in bite-sized pieces, but any other thoughts, comments, or beauty tips, Katie White?
beauty tips
Beauty tips. I mean, I'm not wearing any makeup and I never do, so we'll just leave it with there.
I love you
You too. All right, guys. So we will leave the link to our podcast series too, if you guys want more structured Katie White and Laura Mazzata time. We were talking about that series is on intimacy and how intimacy with ourselves in relationships, particularly in relationships. We talked a lot about relationships, codependency. What else did we talk about? I mean, everything you can think of in relationships. And if
attachment
yeah,
Mhm.
attachment. If we missed a point, let us know. We'll do another episode.
Mhm.
But but yeah, we'll leave that here so that if you guys want to learn more about that, and we have a retreat coming up in September that we would love to invite you to too. So we'll have that link in the description as well. And you can reach out to any of us anytime, either of us anytime if you have any questions. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good day, friends.
Mhm.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye. Thank you.